Hey, what if I told you there is a forest where 400 pine trees all bend at a 90-degree angle and no one knows how or why? Well, that is exactly what happened when locals in northwest Poland stumbled upon this bizarre phenomena for the first time in 1978. They had no idea what could have caused such an unusual sight. And even today, after more than 40 years, the Krzywy loss or crooked forest still remains an unsolved mystery. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to travel to the small village of Baffles in the northern part of Poland. Here you'll find a large forest called Krzywy loss or crooked forest. This forest has hundreds of pine trees with trunks that bend at a right angle from the base. As you can see, they rebent in the exact same direction, and each tree looks like it has been deliberately planted that way. But this was not done by humans. Instead, these trees were growing straight until something suddenly snapped them all at the same time, creating this eerie forest that seems straight out of Jurassic Park. This phenomenon occurs within a larger forest that covers parts of Poland and Russia, and the trees here are not only bent, they also show signs of being damaged. Some trunks are broken, while others display strange grooves and hollows. The damaged trunks were probably caused by some sort of war equipment, but don't worry because this isn't recent. It actually happened around 500 years ago, when the area was occupied by the Teutonic Order. They fought many battles against the Lithuanians and Russians, causing much destruction in the forest. But this would be a pretty convenient excuse if it wasn't for one little problem. All trees are different ages and some are less than 100 years old. It means whatever happened here didn't happen 500 years ago. So then what really happened? How did all these trees end up bent at a 90-degree angle? It seems logical because the snow would have fallen equally on all trees, making them all bend in the same direction. And also, there are no trees older than the snow, meaning the bending must have occurred at the same time. However, this theory doesn't explain how the snow could bend the trees without breaking. If you pile enough snow on something, it will break under the weight, but this would leave marks in the trunk. And as you can see, there are no marks. This would mean the trees became stronger when covered in snow. That doesn't make any sense. So the snow theory is incorrect. Another theory is related to the previous one. Gravity, or more specifically, magnetic anomalies. Our planet has its own magnetic field that can be disrupted by geological phenomena. An anomaly can change the gravitational pull, so that objects behave unusually. It is believed that the local magnetic anomaly could have changed the direction of growth for all trees at once. There are other examples where anomalies are said to affect plant growth. Like in 1938, a scientist named Krzywy visited Crimea and noticed many trees growing at weird angles. He collected soil samples and found high levels of radioactive elements that changed the magnetic field and affected tree growth. But if this is true, why are there no other signs of radiation? And why does the magnetic anomaly only affect these trees? We don't know. So let's try another theory. A few researchers claim the trees were planted like that. It might sound ridiculous, but if you take a closer look at the base, you can see that they seem to be met. In fact, when scientists examined the wood, they found traces of resin that indicated someone had glued the trees together. It's possible that, long ago, humans tried to grow a special kind of pine tree that bends at 90 degrees. However, somehow the experiment went wrong. Maybe the resin dried too quickly, or maybe the wood didn't bond properly. Whatever happened, the trees grew at an angle and remained that way throughout their lives. If you think about it, there are a lot of holes in this theory as well. Why would someone try to grow trees like that in the first place? Also, modern technology didn't exist 500 years ago, so how did they glue the trees? We simply don't have any answers for these questions. So this theory remains as mysterious as the previous ones. Before we move on, let me ask you a question. Did you ever see anything like this in real life? Let me know in the comments below. It turns out that botanists have studied the crooked forest and came to a conclusion that may surprise you. According to the experts, the trees were not bent, but instead grew at an angle from the start. In fact, they intentionally bent themselves to survive. You see, the trees that form the crooked forest are located on a small hill. At the top, there is very little soil, so the trees had to dig their roots deeper down to find water and nutrients. However, this made it harder for them to grow upwards. So the trees adapted and bent themselves towards the sun to be able to photosynthesize and survive. But how do we know they bent themselves? Because they're all exactly the same age and bent in the same direction. It means whatever caused the bending did it evenly across all trees. But this raises another question. Why did they bend at a 90-degree angle? Normally, trees bend gradually and smoothly, not abruptly like this. Unfortunately, there is no answer to this question, and scientists can only speculate. Now, I personally find it hard to believe that 400 trees would just decide to bend themselves at the same time. Something must have caused this, even if it's something we don't understand. Maybe it was a powerful gust of wind or perhaps a sudden earthquake. And if that's true, why did it affect only these trees? In fact, this is not the only strange forest in the world. For example, in northwest Russia, there is a forest of birch trees that are mysteriously bent, twisted and leaning towards each other. Locals call it the dancing forest. The trees here are bent both above and below the ground, and they also have strange growth patterns. Scientists have studied the dancing forest and concluded that it was affected by a powerful vortex. This happened due to a rare combination of factors, including the shape of the hill, the strength of the wind, and the type of soil. It created a powerful vortex that lasted for several hours. This is what bent the trees. But the dancing forest is not the only example. There are many other forests around the world with trees growing in strange directions. So what is happening? Are the trees trying to tell us something? At the end of the day, we still don't know what truly happened to the trees and planet Earth. But what we know for sure is that our planet has huge power that we still do want to understand. Sometimes it causes earthquakes and tsunamis, and sometimes it only takes a gust of wind to create an amazing forest that looks like it is straight out of a fairy tale. There are many other amazing places in Poland, so stay tuned and I will show them to you. And if you want to support my work, consider becoming a member. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.